Tommy Mottola is a devil. I'm not supposed to say what I'm gonna say right now, but I have to let you in on a secret.
What's wrong, Michael?
I don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know who may be listening. There may be a group of people that want to get rid of me. They don't want me here anymore.
I picked the nastiest son of a I can find. Once I make that phone call, this guy is just gonna destroy everybody in sight.
Fact of the matter is, we watched this get right in front of our own face. And the knew it was finna happen. He told us, and we didn't know. Named his last tour, This Is It.
The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad.
For decades, the media didn't just report on Michael Jackson. They rewrote his story, casting the world's greatest entertainer as a freak, a villain, even a criminal. Tabloids painted him as unstable, while late-night TV turned his pain into punchlines. Now, Katt Williams is blowing the lid off that narrative. The real reason Michael Jackson vanished wasn't bizarre behavior or endless scandals. It was a coordinated industry takedown, hiding in plain sight. Tonight, discover how manipulation, manufactured scandals, and powerful enemies erased the king of pop. Before the world gasped at Michael Jackson's demise, before the headlines screamed scandal, and the rumors spread like wildfire, there was a warning that should have stopped us cold. Michael Jackson, a man who could command a stadium's soul with a whisper, stood before the world and called out Tommy Mottola, the industry kingmaker, as nothing less than the devil himself. This wasn't hyperbole. It was a public declaration of war, a desperate flare fired straight into the darkness of the entertainment machine.
Tommy Mottola is a devil. I'm not supposed to say what I'm gonna say right now, but I have to let you in on a secret.
He wasn't just launching accusations, he was issuing a dire prophecy. When Michael spoke of secrets, he wasn't talking about typical industry gossip. He hinted at the kind of secrets that get you erased. With every word, he put himself in the crosshairs of a system that doesn't tolerate rebellion, only obedience.
What's wrong, Michael?
I don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know who may be listening. There may be a group of people that want to get rid of me. They don't want me here anymore.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
I can't talk about it over the phone. I don't know. It's going to happen.
Why would the greatest entertainer of his generation sound like a man foretelling his own execution? Why would he risk it all? The music, the money, the myth, for a truth the industry wanted buried. Here's the chilling truth. Michael Jackson knew too much. He owned too much. Sony's billions weren't enough to control him anymore. He was about to escape the machine with his legacy intact. And make no mistake, that made him dangerous.
You know, let me just say this. The tradition of great performers and I really want you to hear what I have to say. The tradition of great performers from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. The story is usually the same though. You know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same because the companies take advantage of them. They really do. And Sony being the artist that I am at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion, and they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer myself would outthink them.
Yeah!
So we can't let them get away with what they're trying to do because now I'm a free agent. I just owe Sony one more album. It's just a box set, really. And with 2 new songs, which I've written ages ago. Because every album that I record, I write, like, literally, I'm telling you the truth, I write at least 120 songs every album I do. So I can do the box set and just give them any 2 songs. So I'm leaving Sony a free agent, owning half of Sony. So I own half of Sony's, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know.
Tell him! Say it, Michael! Tell the story!
But so the way they get revenge is to try and destroy my album. But I've always said, you know, good art never dies. Thank you. I love Unbreakable. You know, and Tommy Mottola is a devil.
This was never just business. This was the music industry, drawing red, sending a message to every other artist tempted to fight the system. Michael Jackson had walked straight into the eye of the storm, and instead of running, he dared to shine a spotlight on the people holding the levers. So when he named names, called out the devil, and stood alone at the top of the world, the plan to make Michael Jackson disappear was already underway. This isn't speculation. It's the beginning of a tragic script written by those in power, and we, the audience, were conditioned to see only the smoke, never the fire burning underneath. Let that settle. The most famous man in the world knew he would be hunted, not for his eccentricities, but for his courage. And as we trace his steps from that moment forward, the evidence that follows isn't just damning. It's a roadmap of betrayal, orchestrated by hands that made and unmade legends at will. Michael Jackson's warnings didn't come in riddles. They came as thunderclaps he broadcasted to anyone brave enough to listen. Before the world saw the headlines of his death, the machine was already in motion, moving with quiet certainty that only true power can command. What most of us missed was just how blunt Michael's signals were. His own voice, urgent, trembling, raw, warned that a cabal wanted him gone. This was not paranoia or performance. It was the confession of a man who saw the system closing in and understood that survival would mean nothing if he stayed silent.
The fact of the matter is, we watched this get right in front of our own face. And the knew it was finna happen. He told us, and we didn't know. Named his last tour, This Is It. White people, let me just tell you a little secret, if I could. Have never said this is it in a celebratory fashion. Let me just say, white people do it all the time. This is it. Not every time we say it like this. You know what? This is it. And they straight up killed that. Killed him and gave us the most story we ever heard our entire life. First they told us this was a drug addict. Then we find out this drug was sleep. Are you telling me this got high and went to sleep? Yeah, that's no drug addict. Something's afoul here.
Look closer at the This Is It tour announcement. MJ wasn't celebrating another milestone. There was exhaustion beneath the applause and an unmistakable note of finality. This Is It wasn't just branding, it was a coded farewell. Katt Williams caught it. Michael was predicting his own elimination, hiding his cry for help in plain view because that was the only safe place left.
These will be my final show performances in London. This will be it. This is it. And when I say this is it, it really means this is it. Because,
Then came the public's slow turn. The scandals, the whispers, the relentless headlines, all working in tandem, numbing us to the slowly tightening grip around Michael's legacy. He knew this was the plan. First, strip the artist of his image. Then, isolate, weaken, and finally, Erase.
The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad.
The media played its role to perfection, convincing a generation that night was day, that genius was madness, that the world's brightest star was somehow its greatest villain. This wasn't a failing, it was the feature, an intentional rewriting of reality, so the real execution could play out while the audience was distracted by spectacle. Now, with hindsight, you have to wonder, if the most famous man on earth tried to save himself and nobody listened, how many others never even got that chance? The noose was tightening, the system was closing in, and Michael Jackson was forced to deliver his warnings as riddles, hidden in the melodies and applause, hoping that someone, somewhere, would recognize his plea for what it really was. Just as Michael's warnings echoed across the globe, the machine shifted gears from shadow to spotlight. Now the character assassination was in full swing, a relentless, orchestrated campaign to turn the king of pop into a public enemy. But genius doesn't become a villain overnight. It takes years of subtle poison, and everything Michael ever built was leveraged against him.
Some of these things are the reason that the enemy decides to go ahead and let you be famous, is your ability to tear down your own kind, no matter how high they are. On the other hand, my job is to be funny first and to voice the opinion of a group that doesn't get to have their opinion out there, right? So as a black man, if you don't love yourself, you don't love me. So those were the jokes of a guy that was hurt, you know, by an icon. And so I was telling those jokes. The fact that years later, Janet Jackson said she still loved me despite the jokes that I told about her brother is probably one of the most magnificent things, you know, just because I say a lot of hilarious but it costs me every time, you know, like I'm never unscathed in these situations.
Katt Williams, once another voice in the crowd ridiculing Michael, admits he was playing right into the system's hands. He wasn't alone. Hollywood, the press, social media, everywhere you looked, Michael was the punchline, proof that the narrative was working.
You can imagine now my understanding of the facts surrounding the MJ case, that he went to war with Sony, one of these major companies, and he was winning that war. And then suddenly the world was told that Michael Jackson is a or somebody is an anti-Semite. Michael Jackson, I think, was called all of those things. Wacko Jacko, they gave him a name.
How do you feel when they call you
Wacko Jacko? It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
The exact same tactics that they tried to use on me. Someone pressed a button and there was a full court press effort to cancel Candace Owens by trying to convince the people that she just went crazy and anti-Semitic. Thank goodness I'm not from Hollywood. They would have institutionalized me and said that it was for my good. There are a ton of people in Hollywood who, when they have tried to speak out about things that are happening to them, have received this same treatment. I believe this is what happened to Britney Spears.
Even supposedly critical thinkers and reformers pointed at Michael as the ultimate example of rising too high, winning too much. The Pete narrative wasn't about justice. It was weaponized precisely because he was beating Sony at their own game. Whenever someone becomes too big, the system doesn't celebrate. It eradicates.
In 1993, the very first allegation came against him, made from a screenwriter in the industry. He's both a screenwriter and a dentist named Dr. Evan Chandler. It was based in Los Angeles, and his accusation was that Jackson had his 13-year-old son, Jordan. Horrific. Now, how this came about was that Jordan told his psychiatrist that Jackson had him. And then the LAPD began a criminal investigation. But the investigation actually found no physical evidence against Jackson, and it was closed. The case was closed less than 1 year later. Now, that should have stopped the media from reporting on it. Michael Jackson wasn't guilty, but we know the media has never let facts get in the way of them having a good time. They broke the allegations worldwide, which led Michael Jackson to cancel the second leg of his Dangerous World Tour in August of that same year. And he cited health issues, health problems that were stemming from the stress of the entire scandal. And do you want to know what actually added to the stress? This is actually horrific. His sister, LaToya Jackson, came right out and she said, yup, Michael Jackson is a But then something weird happened. She didn't provide any evidence. She didn't even attach that statement to a story. And when people prodded her about that, why did you say your brother is a she admitted that it was her husband who had forced her to make that statement.
Now, let's dig into the origin of the allegations. The details have always been blurry for the public, but look closely. These accusations didn't emerge organically. The groundwork was coordinated, designed to hit Michael at the peak of his independence. The timeline itself makes the plan clear.
His father, Dr. Evan Chandler, did in fact drug his child into making the allegation about Michael Jackson. I'm going to read you directly from an article about what Dr. Evan Chandler did. It reads, on August 2nd, 1993, dentist Dr. Evan Chandler was extracting a tooth from his own son, Jordan, when he did something unusual. Under the supervision of an attending anesthesiologist, Dr. Chandler injected his son with a dose of sodium amytal, a barbiturate. Although in pop culture it has sometimes incorrectly been called a truth serum. It is not normal to use sodium amytal to pull a tooth. In fact, it is a psychological drug with sedative and hypnotic effects. Oh, totally normal situation to drug your child, to sedate him with a drug that produces hypnotic effects, and then to ask him, did Michael Jackson you, to which your drugged and sedated son says yes. That is the actual story about how this allegation came about. And once his son said yes and he reported that, Evan Chandler then demanded $20 million privately from Michael Jackson. He didn't go to the cops, he went to a lawyer. He said, I won't make this public if you give me $20 million. If you don't give me $20 million, I'm gonna make it public. And Michael Jackson told him to kick rocks, allegedly. And then he had his lawyer go back and say, okay, what about if it's just $1 million? And by the way, at this point, it says that his lawyer was like, hey man, but if your son was maybe go to the cops, right? Don't just have me negotiating with the king of pop, you should go to the cops. And he's like, you just keep negotiating, unbelievably. And during this time, he took his son to a psychiatrist. We love psychiatrists on this show. And he made his son describe graphic details of what Jackson had done to him, but didn't do to any of the other boys who were also present for the sleepovers. Jordan's mother at this point, June Schwartz, she and her new husband thought, I think maybe he could be telling some lies. My ex-husband, maybe he's not that honest of a person. And so Jordan's stepdad, a man named Dave Schwartz, decided to confront him, to confront Dr. Evan Chandler. And not just to confront him, but to record him speaking about what he was going to do to Michael Jackson and co. Take a listen to Dr. Evan Chandler, the dentist, in his own words.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief, and I'm not believe that he will not believe what's going to happen. And it's beyond his worst nightmare. That's that one more record.
This attorney I found, I interviewed several, and I picked the nastiest son of a I can find. Once I make that phone call, this guy is just going to destroy everybody in sight.
Here's the most damning evidence yet. MJ's first accuser's father didn't just push his son to lie. He literally intoxicated his child with sodium amytal, extracting a confession he would later use to demand millions from Michael in private before going public when the shakedown failed. And when cornered, he admitted it, in his own words, on record.
Evan Chandler, the person who started this initial allegation, he's no longer with us because he was he committed in November of 2009, just 5 months after Michael Jackson was overdosed. Yeah, Evan Chandler shot himself in the head. There were absolutely no witnesses. There was no note, and he was found by his building concierge. That's just a fun little update for you. But back to Michael Jackson, because even though, like I said, that never went through, they dropped this case in less than a year. The media kind of saw that there was this squeeze on Michael Jackson, but then they let it go. There were no more allegations against Michael Jackson until almost 10 years later, when suddenly there was an explosion of allegations against Michael Jackson. And I want you to remember that year, 2003 is when it began. It began when a boy named Gavin Arvizo accused Michael Jackson of child saying that he was under 14 at the time of the alleged crime. The singer was then charged because of this allegation with 7 counts of child sexual abuse and 2 counts of administering an intoxicating agent. What does the public actually remember from that time? What do you remember from that time? Well, we remember that Michael Jackson was wacko jacko, that he was crazy, that he was addicted to drugs, whatever his doctor was injecting him with. Here are just some of the headlines: wacko jacko, backo jacko, raid, wacko jacko, jacko on the attacko. I mean, this is like seared into my memory. I'm sure it's seared into your memory as well. This is what I remember. And I also remember that he was anti-Semitic. Yeah, there were headlines calling him an anti-Semite, saying that he hated Jews. And by the way, they had evidence because, so weird, but his doctor who overdosed him also recorded Michael Jackson while he was also clearly sounding like he was high on drugs. Maybe his doctor gave him drugs and then spoke to him. And somehow this conversation between him and the doctor made its way out into the public.
The juggernaut rolls on. After the failed extortion, after Michael defended himself at astronomical personal cost, Evan Chandler, the man who engineered it all, met a suspicious end. But rather than closure, this signaled a new barrage. Each time Michael began to rebuild, the machine resurrected accusations and invented new scandals, ensuring his reputation would never recover. This is the heart of the system. Manufacture guilt with fabricated proof, squeeze, extort, and if all else fails, destroy. The world didn't see the clues for what they were. By the time Michael pleaded for understanding, every mechanism was already spinning to erase him as thoroughly as possible, not just from the charts, but from history itself. And all of this was executed with cold precision, while the world simply watched, laughed, and moved on. But here's where the story takes a chilling turn. Because it took someone on the inside, someone who understood the machinery of power, to finally decode what we'd all witnessed. Enter Katt Williams, not as another entertainer making jokes, but as a truth teller who'd spent years watching this system from within, understanding how it really operates.
I'm anti-establishment, so I can never be the establishment. You know what I mean? Like, even if I'm at the Diddy party, I'm there to tell. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm there to see who the is in here and what do y'all get from being in here.
Listen carefully to what Katt reveals here. He wasn't at industry parties to network or climb the ladder. He was there as an observer, studying who gets what by doing which favors. This is insider testimony from someone who positioned himself as a witness to the machine's inner workings.
What I'm saying is, in business, nothing is coincidental, or you would be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money. When these rappers get killed, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts. Now only got to deal with the mama, only got to see her once a year, and it's over. And the money goes up and up and up. So they killed this $20 million guy, but they reaped $60 million in benefits.
Wow.
And they had some people from your city do it.
Wow.
I'm saying there's the good side and the bad side of these businesses.
Now comes the bombshell that reframes everything you thought you knew about celebrity culture. Katt Williams drops the most devastating truth bomb of all. In show business, nothing is accidental. Every scandal, every downfall, every death is strategically planned for maximum financial gain. This isn't comedy anymore. This is confession wrapped in brutal honesty. When Katt says the audience doesn't know that deaths are planned, He's not talking about natural causes or tragic accidents. He's exposing a systematic elimination process where human lives become profit calculations. Think about what this means for Michael Jackson. His OD wasn't the result of addiction or medical negligence. It was the final stage of a business plan that had been years in the making. The character elimination, the manufactured scandals, the financial pressure, it was all leading to this predetermined conclusion. Katt Williams is revealing that we've been watching a scripted reality show where the most powerful figures in entertainment are eliminated when they become more valuable dead than alive. The rituals, the patterns, the quiet rites of passage disguised as luxury and opportunity, it's all part of a system that views human beings as assets to be liquidated when necessary. This is why Michael's warnings fell on deaf ears. The system had already decided his fate, and everything that followed was just the execution of a predetermined plan. The world's greatest entertainer wasn't destroyed by his eccentricities or allegations. He was eliminated because he had become too powerful, too independent, and too dangerous to the people who profit from keeping others under control. And according to Katt Williams, Michael Jackson's elimination wasn't unique. It was just another day at the office in an industry where death is just another business strategy. But before the final curtain fell, Michael Jackson made one last desperate attempt to be heard. Not as the king of pop, not as an entertainer, but as a broken man begging the world to see through the lies that had consumed his legacy.
Wacko Jacko. It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
There are those who would say that you add to the attention.
No, I don't.
Well, the masks, the mysterious behavior.
There's no mysterious behavior. Maybe I like to live that way. Maybe I like to dress that way. I like to dress that way, you know? You should not say he's an animal. Should not say he's Jacko. I'm not a Jacko. I'm Jackson. I have a heart and I have feelings. I feel that when you do that to me. It's not nice. Don't do it. You feel like you're in prison.
Do you think it's the paparazzi, the celebrity, the tabloids, the public? Who?
The public is fine.
They buy the tabloids.
They buy the tabloids. So don't buy it. That would shut them down. To make ugly stories and gossip and rumors and to be vicious and evil and ugly, that is garbage. Don't buy it. Don't buy into it and don't believe it.
Watch this man, stripped of his mystique, reduced to pleading for basic human dignity. This is Michael Jackson in his final act, not moonwalking across the stage, but standing defenseless before a world that had already decided who he was, based on headlines and manufactured scandals. This isn't the confident superstar who once commanded global attention with a single gesture. This is a man who has been systematically destroyed, piece by piece, year by year, until all that remained was this desperate plea for humanity. But here's the tragic truth. By this point, it was already too late. The machine had done its work too well. The public had been conditioned to see Michael as a punchline, a cautionary tale, a figure of ridicule, rather than a victim of the most sophisticated character elimination campaign in entertainment history.
Meanwhile, Michael Jackson is freed in a smelling like little boys' holes, and I'm supposed to be excited. Michael, I know I'm supposed to be happy because he used to be black. I know, I remember. That Michael forgot he was a he forgot he was a he forgot he was a that it was us supporting him. We had that big grease bell pepper nose. That was us. Didn't want to get white, and we kept giving the chances with the Villa-Lago. You know that ain't no real goddamn what you know called Villa-Lago. It be a line as big as a to catch Villa-Lago. You mean I can get my credit rating up to 720 by catching this? Michael.
And here's the proof. Listen to Katt Williams himself, the same man who now reveals the truth about Michael's elimination, participating in the very character elimination he now exposes. Even Katt, someone who would later understand the system's mechanics, was manipulated into attacking Michael. F him, Katt says, repeating the manufactured scandals as if they were facts. This clip is devastating evidence of how completely the machine controlled the narrative. If even future truth-tellers like Katt Williams could be weaponized against Michael, imagine how thoroughly the general public was conditioned to hate him. Every time Michael tried to defend himself, every time he attempted to reveal the truth about the industry destroying him, The very act of speaking out was reframed as further evidence of his instability. They had created the perfect trap, a man who could only prove his sanity by remaining silent about the forces driving him insane. This moment captures the final phase of the system's plan: complete dehumanization. Michael Jackson, the man who had brought joy to billions, was reduced to begging the world to remember that he was human, that he had feelings, that he deserved to be seen as more than the monster they had created in the public's imagination. The greatest entertainer who ever lived died not on stage, but in a sterile room, surrounded not by adoring fans, but by the very system that had spent decades planning his destruction. They didn't just smear Michael Jackson, they executed a playbook: isolate, humiliate, bankrupt the spirit, then cash in on the body. Katt Williams connected the dots. Nothing just happens in an industry that plans scandals and profits from tragedy. Michael's "This Is It" wasn't branding. It was a warning we missed. If the most beloved artist could be erased by design, what chance does anyone else have? If truth-tellers get rewritten as monsters, which current stars are being prepped for elimination right now? And when sudden health scares or comebacks appear, is it growth or a script built to control? If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real.